Favorite Podcast. I'm Hannah-Lisa, your host for today and always, and this is episode 41, and I'm back after a pretty long hiatus. I was on summer vacation and then life got super busy, but now I'm back and we're back to regular programming, which means a new episode every other week. And today I have 3 finished objects for you and a work in progress. So I hope you'll stick around. This is a podcast about making, primarily knitting. Honestly, almost always these days knitting. I don't really get to sew that much anymore. And yeah, a few administrati before we get started. If you want to find me on the interwebs, I'm hlh.designs on Instagram, and my website is hlh-designs.com, which is where you can find my project bags and soon to be released knitting tools. And you can also find me on Ravelry as Hannah-Lisa Haferkamp if you're interested in my knitting patterns. I feel a little bit out of practice, honestly, and also it's like super warm up here. Summer has come back for a brief stint before we get plunged back into fall. So yeah, apologies in advance if this episode is a little bit scatterbrained, because I feel scatterbrained. Anyhow, let's get started with some finished objects, shall we? I have 2 sweaters for you today and a hat, and the first sweater that I am going to show you is one that has actually been sitting on my finished objects pile for a couple of months, but I saved, or had to save, the finished object reveal until after this yarn had been released. And if you've been watching this podcast for a while, you know which one I'm talking about. It's this Stone Thwaite sweater, the cabled sweater to end all cabled sweaters. Okay, I don't even know if that fits correctly on camera, but I'll try and hold it like this while I'm talking a little bit about what this is. So, a few months ago, this is actually getting too heavy. I'm going to show you when we get to the sweater details. I'm going to hold the sweater up again. But a few months ago, I was approached by the wonderful Claire Mountain, who works as a brand manager for the Fiber Co, and she asked if I'd be interested in participating in their very first beta knitting program. The beta knitting program was a program where in exchange for getting the yarn for a project, you would knit a new design from their latest collection, and you'd give feedback on it, you'd sort of be a test knitter for it, and you would also post about it on social media. I absolutely love the work the Fiber Co is doing, and I was very happy to say yes. We got to choose a few designs from the collection that we liked and also give color preferences, and I got paired with the Stone Thwaite sweater by Linda Marving in the colorway Calm of their new yarn Lore. The entire collection that they've created to celebrate this yarn launch is called Borrowdale, and you can find it on Ravelry. It's gorgeous. There are a lot of really gorgeous sweaters, and also a few smaller projects if you're curious about the yarn and want to try it out. And the yarn itself, Lore, it was an absolute dream to work with. It's 100% Romney lamb's wool that is grown and spun in the UK, and it's I don't even have words. It's so good. It's woolen spun, which means that this sweater is really lofty and incredibly even in the stitches, and just is so, like, it's so good. It behaves so well after blocking. It's such a joy to knit with. Oh, it's a DK weight, I should also mention that, and I'm just head over heels in love with it. It's such a good yarn, you guys. It's brilliant. I also really love the colorways that they came up with. I'm assuming that quite a few of them have been dyed on a gray base, like this one, because there's just a depth to the colors that you don't get when you dye on a white base. There's a gorgeous minty shade and like a mustard, and it's just really good. So I absolutely love the yarn. I can only highly recommend it, and it's available now, so you can check out your nearest Fiber Co stockist to see if you can get your hands on some. It's definitely worth it. Let's talk about the pattern, and I'm still awkwardly holding the sweater, so I'm just gonna hold it like this. So the sweater Stonethwaite is the cabled beast to end all cabled beasts, essentially. It has a cable panel running down the front, the back, and the side of the arms. And the cable panel on the front and back is framed by a little bit of reverse stockinette, some twisted stitches, and some ribbing that also continues on the side. In terms of construction, the sweater is knit in pieces and then seamed together, which I actually really liked, because it makes the project incredibly portable. Because yes, even though this cable panel looks like something from hell, it's actually really enjoyable to knit and very easy to memorize. So once you got the cable panel down, this is a perfect, or for me it was the perfect travel project. So I would take it everywhere and anywhere, and I would just constantly be knitting on it, and it would be super satisfying because it actually knit up quite fast. In terms of the sweater itself, what I love about the design in the body is what I don't love it about it in the sleeves, honestly. So I'm not 100% happy with the finished object, and here's why. The sweater itself has these 2x2 ribbed sort of sides in the body, which makes it fit really snug in the body in the best possible way. But what you'll see is that it doesn't have the same thing going for the sleeves. So the sleeves are just pure stockinette in addition to the cable panel. What this means, because ribbing per se, because of the nature of the fabric, sort of clings to whatever you put it on more easily than stockinette. So here in the body you have almost no ease because of the way that this fits because of the ribbing, whereas the arms have quite a lot of ease, and I don't like the look of that on me, because what it does is makes me look very broad in the shoulders, and it also kind of takes away all the sort of modernness of the shape that this potentially had, because it clings to the body here, but then the arms are quite wide. I just don't love the look of it on me. I feel kind of stocky in it, and yeah. Part of that is also that I unintentionally knit the sleeves a tiny bit too long, so I have to wear it cuffed. Yeah. It's a shame because I really loved knitting it, and I love the yarn. I love the way that the neckline is treated. There's a little I-cord thingy here. So I'm going to see if I'll actually wear it, and if I don't, then I'll unravel it in the spring and I'll make something else with the yarn, because it's too gorgeous to be wasted. But overall, like, if you are someone who actually loves cable sweaters and could see themselves wearing this, like having this as a wardrobe staple, I would recommend it because it's a lot of fun to knit, and the yarn is just to die for. Go get some of that yarn, it's really good. So, Lore by the Fiber Co, the Stonethwaite sweater. I'm hoping everyone who was mad because I couldn't show it before, here it is, it's done, yay! Also, if you're interested in more photos of this, I've just put up a blog post on the blog on the website, that was a long sentence, where I've put in a few more photos, and I've also talked a little bit about how I enjoyed the process of knitting it, what my grips are with the fit at the end, and if you're curious about that, I would highly recommend checking that one out. Alrighty, FO number 1 down, FO number 2. I have forgotten to sew in an end. Okay, so sorry about that, if you'll see it peek through. So over the past months, I've knit a lot of tiny things. I've knit a lot of baby things, I've knit a lot of sock samples, and in the last few weeks, I craved casting on something bigger, something more substantial. And I love sweaters, and I've had this cardigan planned in my mind with that specific yarn that I used for the longest time ever, because there was a very specific hole in my wardrobe. I don't have a thicker gray cardigan. I don't have any gray cardigans for that matter. And I wanted to have a gray cardigan that would be sort of fitted enough that I could wear it out, not like a slouchy cardigan, but also that would keep me warm and kind of cozy. And about, must have been more than a year ago, my friend Claire Devine published a collection that was called From Dorset with Love, and she has a cardigan pattern in it that's called the Kimmeridge cardigan. And here is my finished Kimmeridge cardigan! Yoo-hoo! Ooh, and this thing is everything that I hoped it would be. So the Kimmeridge cardigan is actually designed to be a cardigan with buttons. I decided to leave the buttons out because I, just for the way that I wear my cardigans, I prefer to wear them open, and I thought that it would kind of look a bit weird and saggy if I sewed on buttons there. Then I would have to do some reinforcing to the button band for it not to sag, and I didn't want to do that. So I just left the buttonholes off, and that worked perfectly. Other than that, I didn't really do a lot of modifications. I'll talk about the modifications that I did in a second, but let me describe you the cardigan. So it's a top-down raglan cardigan with a simple stockinette back and stockinette sleeves and this beautiful textured front, ribbing at the bottom, ribbing at the cuffs, and a garter stitch shawl collar that's actually quite is quite narrow, which I really love. I mean, obviously you can modify it to be bigger, and Claire gives you instructions how to do that, but I really liked how she did it because it makes it look not so frumpy, really. So I really loved knitting this. I love the finished object. It's exactly what I wanted. It's exactly what I pictured. I don't have any grips with the pattern. I don't have, like, it's really, it was such a pleasurable, enjoyable knit. It was super fast because it's in a worsted weight yarn, and I can only recommend it if you're looking for a pattern for a cardigan that's somewhat cozy but not like too frumpy. Kimmeridge cardigan it is. There's also a gorgeous version, a gorgeous men's version on Ravelry in like a mustardy yellow gold. It's really good. So I think this looks good on anyone and everyone. As to the yarn that I used, this is Rauwerk yarn from Christine in Munich in the grey colorway, and it's a worsted weight, pretty sure that this is woolen spun. It looks woolen spun. 100% German yarn, and it's sheepy and rustic, but just in the right amount, and it blocks out beautifully. Let's talk a bit about the yarn before we dive into the pattern modifications that I did. The yarn, especially the first charge, I don't know if that has changed now, but the first charge was delivered from the mill without removing the spinning oil, which means that you're knitting with something that has still quite a bit of spinning oil in it. I actually didn't mind it when I was knitting it, but it means that the fabric behaves very differently and looks very differently after you've washed it. And I showed you the swatch in my last episode, I think. Kind of hoping that I did that. Also, just come to think of it, I actually did record an episode after my summer vacation, didn't I? Yeah. Oh my god, my brain's everywhere but not here these days. So anyways, coming back to the yarn. So the yarn behaves very differently after washing it, and there are a few people who, when that happens, decide to wash their skeins. I didn't do that. I washed my swatch because I wanted to see how it behaved, and obviously you should always measure your swatch after blocking, but then I just knit the pattern I knit the garment with the yarn with the spinning oil in it, and it was perfectly fine. But it also meant that I was really curious how the finished cardigan would look like after blocking, and I'm happy to say that it evened out all the stitches. It's really gorgeous. It's very soft. It's like soft sheepy, just the right kind of soft that I love. What I will say is that the yarn bred incredibly. Honestly, it was a nightmare when blocking. I really like the yarn. I like what Christina's doing. I love the natural, it's not a natural gray, it's a dyed gray. But boy, I have no idea whether that was the spinning oil or whether it, like the color, whether it was mordant correctly or something. But I've never, usually I always wash or like submerge my finished objects in water until they don't bleed anymore, and with this one it just wasn't possible. I was washing it for a proper 10 minutes and it was still great coming out, so I just decided to call it a day, and now I'll just have to remember it that I should never put this into the hand wash together with other things. Yeah, that is something that I really didn't like. The gray itself, I mean, it does look a little bit lighter than in the skein, but I don't mind that. I actually really love the gray. But yeah, it's just something that you need to be aware of. But let's talk a little bit about the pattern. So there are a few things that I wanted to mention that I really loved. One is, I already said, is the garter stitch collar. One, because it's just the most mindless thing for the end. You know, you're just knitting and knitting and knitting. And the fact that this is quite slim at the top, because I think that makes it look really modern and quite sleek. One modification that I did to the collar is that I didn't knit the full width that you would have had to knit for the button band. I knit about 2/3 the way and then decided to bind it off using the Icelandic bind off, which Claire recommends, which worked beautifully because I didn't want more fabric in the fronts. The second thing that I really love is how she uses the raglan increases to sort of let this side panel grow, and you'll see that when you buy the pattern, how she gives you instructions how to do that, and I thought that was done beautifully. The third thing that I wanted to mention is that the only modification that I did, other than the ones that I already talked about, is that I knit the cuffs and the ribbing in twisted rib, or like half twisted rib. I twisted the knits and purled the pearls, just because I like the look of it a little bit better than the regular rib, just for my style of knitting. And then I used a tubular bind off to bind it off, which I love the look of it. I think it looks super clean and super professional, and I'm really happy with it. So, Kimmeridge Cardigan by Claire Devine, highly recommended if you're looking for a new cardigan pattern, which I'm assuming quite a few of you might be, now that the days are getting colder again. Yay! Alrighty loves, those are two of my latest finished objects, and then the third one was an impromptu cast on. So I finished the sweater, the Kimmeridge cardigan, in about 2 weeks. It really goes that fast. It's worth it way, what can you say? And then I found myself for the first time in like forever without anything on the knitting schedule, and coincidentally that weekend where I cast off the cardigan, I was at Wollen Berlin's summer party, my local yarn shop summer party, and I got to meet the wonderful Anna Maltz, the Wonder Woman behind the Marl Isle book, and we had a really nice chat, and I decided to cast something on from the book, and I just wanted like a simple mindless project, so I decided to cast on the Hosmos hat. Yay! So this is the hat in Anna's Marl Isle technique, and I was just really curious to see how that worked and to just try it out and enjoy it. I'm gonna put it on, but then I'm gonna put it off again because I'm gonna die otherwise. So yeah, this is the Hosmos hat. I used, as in all the Marl Isle patterns, I used 2 yarns for this. I used Swans Island All American Sport Weight, and I think the color was called Blackberry, and an undyed 100% Corriedale yarn from my friend Am, Oysters and Pearls, and I just love how those colors look together, and it was just super fun to knit something in Marl Isle. I'm imagining that it might be even more fun if you have like a larger project where you alternate between the marled and the non-marled sections more. And there's definitely a learning curve, especially when you're knitting it in Magic Loop, because what you might see is that some of the non-marled sections are super flat, like this one here, and then others not so super flat, and those are the ones where I was magic looping. So if I were to do a Marl Eye project magic loop in the future, I would put the magic loop somewhere here in the marled section and not in the non-marled section, because I think that would actually make it a little bit less obvious. The pattern itself is really straightforward. I'm not going to tell you a lot about it because obviously it's part of a book, right? But it was one of the perfect projects for watching TV, and what I really like about the Marl Isle, well, the Marl Eye technique, or the fabric that it creates, is that it's super squishy and thick. So these were two fingering borderline sport weight yarns. It's knit in garter stitch, and garter stitch per se is always squishier than stockinette, right? But it's also just creating such a really nice thick fabric that I'm imagining it would be so good for like an outer layer jacket or a thicker pullover or something like that. So I'm really happy that I did this. I'm really happy that I got to experiment with Anna's technique, and I just honestly, this book is really, really, really good. I can only recommend it. It's just really good. Like, it's very interesting. I love the pattern descriptions. I love the way that the patterns are written. I love the photography. It's just, yeah, it's perfect. Everything that you would want in a knitting book. So yes. And also, Karen Templer from Fringe Association is running a Marl Eye Cal at the moment, I think possibly until the end of September, which is more than plenty of time to whip out one of the smaller projects in the book. So there's this, there's a second hat project, there's a pair of fingerless mittens, so all sorts of different smaller things, if you're curious and you want to enter. I haven't decided yet if I want to enter, but yeah, I'm really glad that I knit that. Now, as to what I'm currently working on, I'm still on my monogamous knitting streak, but this one is testing a little bit my patience, just because I don't really feel that much like knitting these days. It's living in my special Mole View yarn for HLH Designs collaboration project bag that we launched 2 weeks ago, and that's sold out like crazy, like sliced bread, as we say in German. Excuse me. And it's another hat. I don't know, seems to be hat time. Yay! And this is how far I've got until now. So, the hat pattern that I'm knitting right now is the Glendalough hat pattern by Verena Kors from one of our summer collections that was called Travel, or that is called Travel, that we put out through Making Stories. I'm not doing a very good job at this today, am I? So, Travel is a wonderful ebook full of patterns and lovely travel stories and gorgeous illustrations. So if you're curious about that, check out the website making-stories.com. And this is a hat pattern that Verena wrote and published in said book that I fell absolutely head over heels in love with, and that I'm working on right now. It's called Glendalough, and I'm knitting this in stone wool Cormo, 100% Cormo, that I picked up at A Verb for Keeping Warm when I was there earlier in the year. And the yarn. I've been wanting to try this yarn for like forever, since it came out, because people went crazy over it. And it's a good yarn. But like, where's the Cormo? Like, I don't know, like it feels like merino. Is that a thing? Is like Cormo maybe somewhat related to merino or something? Like, it doesn't feel like, with, for example, with this one, right? Like, you feel the sheepiness. With this one, you feel the sheepiness. This, no sheepiness, and it's not superwash, so I don't know what it is. If it's the fiber, if it's the preparation, if it's, I don't know, it's just smooth, and it's a bit too smooth for my taste. I think it's going to show the cables quite well though, which is good because the color doesn't do the cables any justice, but I'm hoping because it's such a smooth yarn, it will reflect the light quite well, and so the cables will actually stand out more than they do while I'm looking at it right now. But I think it's going to be a nice finished object in the end. It's a super cabled head, and it's going to look gorgeous, but it's really testing my patience. It's a lot of cables, you guys, but still loving it, and great to get to knit with that yarn that I've been wanting to try for ages. So those are all the things that I'm working on currently, well, I'm working on one thing, and those are all the things that I finished lately. And the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about today is a little shop update news. If you've been following our Instagram, you might have seen that we launched our new fall colors the other week, and we did that, and it was such a great shop update. Thank you so much to everyone who already purchased something, that we almost sold out immediately of almost everything. We're going to have a smaller shop update tomorrow on Tuesday, September 18th, where we're gonna restock some of the missing sizes and some of the missing colors, but I wanted to give you a quick rundown of the colors that we're having in the fall collection, just in case you haven't seen them yet. For fall, I was inspired by Iceland, and I wanted to play with texture as much as I wanted to play with color, and I found a few really gorgeous fabrics that are not only different in terms of the colors, but that are also different in terms of the feels. The first one that I want to show you is a wonderful dark green velvet that is super smooth. Again, like with all of these, you know the deal, right? Like 100% natural materials, all handmade by my little team here in Berlin. And this little 100% natural velvet is the most gorgeous thing. It's like, it's really smooth and like, oh, just velvety, and the perfect dark green. It's called Kirkjubø Klaustur, and yeah, love it. Then I couldn't not buy this fabric. Just look at it. Isn't this perfect? It's perfect, isn't it? So yeah, this is called Glumor, and it's like this, it has little nupsies. It's almost like, it's not really tweedy. Maybe it's tweedy. God, me and fabric terminology. Great, Annalisa. But I love this, and you guys seem to love it too, so that makes me very happy. Then we have Skaftafell, which is this gorgeous deep blue threaded with white that is just, looks like the sea to me, or the waterfalls, which is why it's named Skaftafell. Then we have Rhyolite, our Harrisville tweed in this deep rusty red, and Landmannalaugur, which is this burnt orange that has a velvety texture to it as well, but is woven through with white threads, and it's gorgeous. So all of these will be available in the shop update tomorrow in various sizes, so check back if you want to get your hands on them. And also, as I mentioned, we had the collaboration with Paula from Moldview Yarns with these bags, and for some reason I miscounted. I thought I only had, like, I had none left in my inventory, but I have one left, so that goes into the shop now as well. Yay! I think that's everything that I wanted to talk to you about today. Sorry if that episode was a little bit frantic. I'm trying to get back into the swing of things, so expect another one in 2 weeks that will hopefully be a little bit more fluid. And I hope you weren't too put off by the like 15 different FOs showing kind of thing. Yeah, I just really wanted to catch up with you guys, and I would love to see you again here in 2 weeks. If you like this episode, hit the thumbs up button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get a notification every time I put out a new video, and I will see you again here very soon. Bye!